All right, welcome to our very first Everyone Everywhere podcast. Not sure we know what we're doing. We'll figure it out as we go.
That's right. Give us some grace.
That's right.
Give
you guys
us some
be
grace.
abundant in your grace towards us. But I'm here. I'm Trey Brinson, pastor of Eagles Landing, alongside Tim Sexton, who's been on our staff for a long time. And a friend of mine, loved this guy to death. And we're going to talk to you today a little bit about why we started this podcast, but also why our church exists in the community in which it does.
Yeah, and we've been talking about this podcast for a while, so I'm glad we're finally doing this. Why a podcast? Like, why this particular platform? How do you think this is going to be valuable?
Sure.
Here.
Yeah, I think, man, we get 40 minutes, or I do, on a Sunday morning just teaching the Word to our congregation, and you get 30 minutes to an hour shaping them in life group. So we just thought, man, we need another place where we can leverage our lives to make a greater impact in the kingdom and really to influence the people that we've been called to shape and to disciple and hopefully see them grow as disciples of Christ. So we do that during the gathering and during groups, but this gives us kind of a third place, another place. So we have people who commute back and forth to work. We have people that have their AirPods in as they're taking a run. We have people that bike or whatever the case may be. And our goal is that in those regular rhythms of life, that they're now being shaped and formed as disciples because they're listening to the Everyone Everywhere podcast. So we just felt like if we started something like this would give us another opportunity to shape and mold people into the likeness of Christ.
Yeah, and our folks also get to hear kind of behind the scenes, why are we doing the things that we're doing? Why are we emphasizing the things we're emphasizing here? And I know you came here about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And we started working on, obviously everybody knows we have the Bible, we have the Great Commission, but every community is unique. And so we started kind of working on, you led us into this, what's our mission here in Henry County, in this specific community. So talk about the mission statement. What is it and why and that sort of thing.
Yeah, you talk about coming here 5 years ago, literally came on the first week of COVID. And so the whole world shut down. But we were living in Raleigh, Durham. We came down here just prayerfully considering if this is what God was doing in our lives and in the life of this church. And we drove around McDonough, and at that time there wasn't nobody really out because COVID was, a thing then. And but McDonough's a really interesting place, by the way. It's where we're from in Raleigh, Durham. They build houses like right on top of each other. Like if you need a cup of sugar, you just kind of pass it out the window and another person can grab it. But here it's like the same amount of people, but you got a little bit more space. So
it was a rural community.
Yeah, it's strange how it's built.
Yeah.
But man, my wife and I, when school resumed, we got to walk through the school here, and we saw how just diverse the school was. And really that piece is what drew our hearts to Eagles Landing. Because we hadn't seen the church, right? Nobody was able to meet in the church, but the school still had all these rules, but they were still in the same building. And we walked through the halls, and I remember my wife saying to me, this is where we're supposed to be. So we got back to the hotel, and I said, why do you think this is where we're supposed to be? And she said, it's like the nations are among us. And when we walked those halls today, I think I saw literally different ethnicities, different cultures, different backgrounds, and these are sheep without a shepherd. We get the chance to come and to mold hearts and minds to be more like Christ here. So we thought that was really, really cool. But about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, we felt like our community had changed. But we started asking the question, has the church changed with the community? Now, we're not going to leave the essential doctrines. Like, we're not going to leave what's most important to us. But we did think, man, maybe we need to change our approach to how we're trying to reach our community. So we thought through our mission statement. When I say we, it was a number of us that were in conversations for about a year and a half. So I guess that really took place almost 2 years ago now. And we just prayerfully asked God, like, show us what our unique contribution to McDonough is going to be. And we had whiteboards and we had sticky things all over the walls, and we threw everything you could imagine out at each other. We got frustrated at each other. We're fighting, ripping things off the wall. I mean, you can imagine how that is. And then we landed where we're at, and that is to invite everyone everywhere to know and follow Jesus. It's simple, it's clear, and personally I love it. So that's kind of what our mission statement is.
It's just a condensed version of the Great Commission.
It really is.
And Paul, in the Bible, just to defend a little bit this idea that we're adapting, he went to Athens and he communicated the same gospel that he did in Rome or wherever. He just adapted to the culture that he was in, not the message, but the means and the method and that sort of thing. So I'm thankful that we're doing that here. So this isn't just a random mission statement. Like we said, every church has to decide who they are in their community and how they want to serve and impact their community. So how is not just our mission statement, but just your vision, how is it kind of tailored for this community that we're sitting in?
Yeah, sure. Well, when I got here, because there was no church, everybody was at home, all I could do was kind of focus on what I had heard that Eagles Landing was or is at that time. And I tried to make as much sense of that as I could. So in conversations with you and other people, y'all are feeding me all I know about Eagles Landing. It wasn't really
and
entire
it was
people.
rapidly changing.
Oh, yeah, it was.
Right there. Yeah.
And it happened fast.
Yeah, it did.
It kind of happened overnight. And I think even for our people, they were trying to figure out, who are we? And why are we here now? Because we're wrestling with that. Some of the people that were just very influential in our community have moved away. There were some changes in leadership in our community. There was just a lot going on at one time. And but what was so unique is you can approach that from one or two angles. That can be a super negative thing. That can be a super positive thing. And the negative ones are going to run from it. The ones who approach it as a positive thing are going to embrace it and say, okay, this God is sovereign, God is providential. This is where we're at. This is where He has us.
Yeah.
What do we do with it?
Yeah.
And man, like our mission statement, inviting everyone everywhere, that speaks specifically to the community that we're in. Like McDonough alone, 70% of McDonough is minority. Like, I don't know.
That's almost a 70% of McDonough, I guess you would say, is non-white.
Yes.
Is that what you?
Yeah.
And this church used to be
All white.
but this area pretty much was.
That's right.
So it's a beautiful thing, and this isn't, we don't want to get into the racial stuff too much. It's just a beautiful thing to see the diversity here. One of our staff members that did some research a while back and looked at the people that are walking in our doors and our members. 48 different languages represented here at this church.
Yeah.
It's really wild. So that sort of helps to craft how you want to reach this community and why you want to reach this community. I know, people are image bearers. It's what color your skin is or the culture that you're from is not as important as you are an image bearer. You're made in the image of God, and we want to love, serve, share the gospel with these people. But you and I have talked about this a lot. God has absolutely blessed us with an incredibly diverse church, and that matters because this community is diverse, and we want our church to look like the community that it's in, and it really does. So just a little bit more on your thoughts on the diversity here.
Yeah.
How does that make ministry here unique?
Well, honestly, that's a testament to our church. When a church reaches its neighbors and your neighborhoods are diverse, your church can't help but become diversified too, right?
Yeah.
So I think that speaks a little bit to who our people are. Our people love people.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who those people are. People love people.
Yeah.
But I think also, man, you just said it, the theology of the Imago Dei, like to think through the reality that every one of us are image bearers of Jesus or of God, and we are being conformed into the likeness of Christ is why we have dignity, why we have value, why we have worth. And that's almost an anomaly these days. Like, people don't think of that. And I think we as a people, our church has embraced that theology well. But one of the things I love about our church, and you might like this too, is that there's a lot of good things. But when you go to the gathering and you just, walk through the back door, you find your seat and you look around, it is literally the closest picture of heaven on earth that I've ever seen. I don't know about you. Maybe you've been.
No, it really is.
But you look around and there are people worshiping different ways. There are people that look different, that probably had different cultural upbringings.
Even religious backgrounds.
Yeah.
Or church backgrounds.
Yeah, and it reminds me of how this entire biblical narrative ends, where there's a people from every nation, every tribe, and every tongue singing, their praises to the Lord God Almighty. And I think for me, to be able to participate in that every single Sunday is a beautiful, beautiful thing. In fact, I would argue, like, why would you not want to be a part of that, right?
Man.
Because it really is the closest thing to heaven here on earth that you can be a part of, and it's a beautiful picture of.
Yeah, and I have a little microcosm, sort of a picture of that on Sunday mornings. I teach a life group, and it's very diverse. And, man, they're just loving each other so well and taking really good care of one another. And, before I got into ministry, I was in real estate for a long time. And this community, 25 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, for a long time, it was in the top 5 fastest growing communities the country.
Yeah.
In the country. So all these people move into this area. The schools are exploding. They're building schools all the time. We have a Christian school here on campus, and we're going to talk to our youth pastor, Zachary Miller, next time on the podcast about how we're reaching the youth of the community in the high schools. But just what are your thoughts on, like, your dream for who Eagles Landing is going to be in this community?
Well, we talked about our mission statement being inviting everyone everywhere. There's a diversity piece. But the back half of that is to know and follow Jesus. There is symmetry and balance between the way that we approach evangelism and discipleship.
Yeah.
We don't look at them as a dichotomy. They're the same thing. We get it. But at the same time, some churches can be so evangelistic that they have no answer for how they disciple people. Some people can be so ingrained in discipleship that they're really not teaching people how to effectively evangelize.
Or they're not reaching their community.
And they're not reaching their community. And I think what we're looking for here is a healthy balance of both. Like, how do we become a church where, as a disciple of Jesus, you're maturing deeper in your faith, but you're also reaching people that don't know Christ? And man, I feel like I naturally lean more towards that evangelistic category. That's where the pendulum swings for me. You naturally lean more towards that discipleship side, which you're not against evangelism. I know you. I'm not against discipleship. You know me. Like, our hearts are 100% rooted in that. But what happens is you and I can get at the table, just like other staff in our building, and we wrestle over the right things.
We do.
We're like, man, this is why it's important to me.
Sometimes, yeah.
And the reason it's important is because we've seen so many churches that their unique contribution to their community is not what Jesus has ultimately commanded us to do. Go and make disciples, teaching them to obey.
Yeah.
And
but you want to see people get saved. So
I'm getting passionate. So sorry.
Yeah.
So but that's it, Tim. I mean, you think about it. That's what we want to be as a church. When you walk through our doors and you choose to put your life in our environments of our gathering, our groups, or whatever it is that we offer, we want to know that you're truly going to grow as a disciple of Jesus, and that your neighbors aren't going to say, "Oh, I know he's a Christian, but he's never told me about Christ."
Yeah, and there's a sort, I don't know if it's a Bible Belt thing or just a church thing or just something that is kind of the enemy plays us in this area, but there is a sort of consumerism. We've trained people to sort of be consumers when they come to church, and they assume that the church staff is going to evangelize. And the truth is, we're all a part of the body of Christ, and we're supposed to be sharing the gospel. But, like you said, my passion is to see, I'm a counselor. That's what I do here a lot on staff. And I want to see the gospel heal people's souls and their families and generations, their grandkids, or their lives are changed because of that. But that doesn't happen until people come to know Christ. And so your emphasis on evangelism, I appreciate it, man. I know we're in these staff meetings kind of pulling on this thing all the time. It's a beautiful thing. We need an emphasis on both.
Well, that's how the body of Christ works, right? Where God's gifted me as evangelist. You're over here meeting with families left and right, and so goes the home, so goes the church, right? Like, healthy homes are what make healthy churches. Yeah. And we're working backwards. We're trying to say, hey, as a church, we're trying to help you have healthy homes so that our church can be healthy too. That's not the end game. The end game's the glory of God from both of them. But at the end of the day, I think our gifts do offset each other. And when you have a church like that that's planted in a community, I think people take notice. It takes time, but I think people take notice. And then these people that you're shepherding their hearts, who are going back into their communities and their marriages are now healthy, man, the divorce rate's not getting better. No. Like, by the minute, it's getting worse. And now healthy marriages, that things that you've walked through, those people, they're now, as a disciple, is going to reproduce that in the lives of other people and help their marriages become healthy as well. And so it just takes all of us to make this thing go and to make it work. But I do think our community is going to benefit greatly as a result of us being here. In fact, we've always said, if Eagles Landing ceased to exist tomorrow, it should hurt our community.
Yeah.
I think it would.
Yeah,
And,
I do too, man. And I'm looking forward to, this podcast. We're going to get better at this.
Yeah,
Obviously,
that's
we
right.
are. But we're going to bring people on as guests. Next time we'll have Zachary Miller. We've got all these different people, staff people and lay people, leading in different ministry areas in the church that are all part of this soup.
Right.
That makes up Eagles Landing. So,
well, I've already defied rule number one. Our director told us, don't make this a sermon and preach. And I'm like, let's go.
impossible for Trey not to do that. No. So just a little bit, what can we expect from this podcast from your perspective moving forward? I want people to join in, especially if you're part of the Eagles Landing community. This is an opportunity for you to hear what's going on. So what are you hoping this thing will do for us?
Yeah, really, I hope this is just a benefit to the people of our church, but also to the people of Henry County. I think if it bleeds beyond that, man, that's just the favor of God and something that he'll have to do. Our ultimate goal, we called it Everyone Everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. Because we do want to dab our foot in the water of a lot of different topics, a lot of different subjects. Some of them are going to be hard, some of them are going to be easy, some we're going to get emails about, and some we won't. And that's okay.
Trey.Brentson not
Tim.Sexton. That is not my email address. Do not try it. But yeah, we want to do that. We're going to probably field some questions from people like, what are you wrestling with, and what's bothering you? But just like I do, in the past 5 years, we've seen very clearly that there's really no one answer to any question, and you can't make anybody, everybody happy. But our job is through this podcast to be biblically faithful. We want to help people's minds and hearts be shaped by the gospel of Jesus. We also want to speak into things that they're not hearing from churches or from pastors or from staff. What they are hearing, they're hearing about those topics is just from the news.
Whichever channel you choose.
Whatever channel you choose will make you lean whatever way you lean. And so we just want to be biblically faithful, servants of Jesus, and we want to steward this podcast in a way that will bring him glory and ultimately enrich and equip people for the kingdom of God. So.
Yeah, and I know that you'll agree with this. I hope this promotes unity. And so for our church people, we want to be on the same page.
Yeah, sure.
We want to understand God the way that the Bible presents him, and understand the gospel and what our role is and what the church is doing. But I think this will be good.
I think it's going to be fun.
I do too.
Because we don't know what we're doing.
We don't know what we're doing.
We're going to grow as we
And
go.
if you're listening, you might be a guest on here someday. Who knows?
That's right. Well, listen, thank you guys so much for tuning in to our very first podcast. And we're going to have Zachary Miller on next week, a student pastor that everybody loves.
Yeah, kind of sick of hearing about him, man.
Yeah,
Everybody
so if you have
loves
students or if you don't have students, you want to tune in next time, because I promise you, Zachary has a heart, as big as gold, and I'm excited about having him on here. And you never know what he's going to say, so it's always cute and quirky. But anyway, so make sure you tune in next time. Thank you so much for joining us on Everyone Everywhere. Have a good day, and we'll see you next time.